The message came to Earth on a Tuesday morning. Every screen on the planet showed the same face. It was not human. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Behind it stood a fleet of warships so large they blocked out the stars. "I am Lord Varric of the Keth Empire," the alien said. His voice was cold and proud. "We have conquered 200 worlds. Your planet is next. You have one choice. Submit to our rule, or we will burn your cities to ash. You have 24 hours to decide." The screen went black. Across Earth, people screamed. They cried. They prayed. But deep underground, in a room that did not exist on any map, 12 people sat in silence. They were watching the same message, and they were smiling. General Park stood at the front of the room. He was an old man with tired eyes. He had seen many wars, but he had never seen anything like the people sitting before him. "You all know why you are here," General Park said. "Project Fenrir. You were chosen because normal soldiers cannot do what needs to be done. You were chosen because you are not normal." A woman in the front row laughed. Her name was Hannah. She was 29 years old and had bright eyes that never stopped moving. On her lap sat a small bag. Inside the bag were enough explosives to destroy a building. She called them her babies. "So we finally get to play," Hannah said. "I was getting bored." Next to her sat a giant of a man named Essie Oak. He was 41 years old and had not spoken a single word in 3 years. No one knew why. No one asked. They had seen what happened to people who made him angry. Behind them sat Una, the team medic. She was 26, with a gentle smile and soft voice. She had memorized 4,000 ways to kill a person using medical tools. She had invented 200 more herself. In the corner sat Day the Scout. He was 31 and had a habit of laughing at strange moments. He could disappear in a room full of people watching him. No one understood how. Day did not explain. At the center of them all sat their leader. His name was Tay. He was 34 years old, calm and quiet, with eyes that saw everything. He had worked in dark rooms asking questions to people who did not want to answer. He always got his answers. He never raised his voice. "The aliens want war," General Park said. "But we are not sending an army. We are sending you. 12 people against an empire. The world thinks we are sending diplomats. They do not need to know the truth." Tay stood up slowly. He straightened his simple black uniform. "What are the rules?" he asked. General Park smiled. It was not a happy smile. "There are no rules. Do whatever you need to do. Make them understand that Earth is not worth the trouble." Day asked. He was grinning. "Then you die doing what you love," the general replied. The team laughed. It was not the laugh of soldiers going to war. It was the laugh of predators who had just spotted their prey. 6 hours later, a small transport ship left Earth. It carried no weapons that scanners could detect. It carried no army. It carried only 12 people in simple black uniforms. The Keth flagship was enormous. It was 5 kilometers long, home to 40,000 soldiers, and armed with weapons that could crack planets. When the tiny human ship approached, Lord Varric watched from his throne room with amusement. "They send this," he said to General Thesa, his military advisor. "One small ship? Do they think this is a joke?" Thesa studied the approaching vessel. Something felt wrong to her, but she could not say what. "Perhaps they come to surrender," she offered. Good Varric replied, "I will enjoy watching them beg." The human ship landed in the main hangar. 500 Keth soldiers stood ready, weapons aimed. The door of the ship opened slowly. Smoke poured out. Then, one by one, the humans walked down the ramp. Tay came first. He walked calmly, hands clasped behind his back, looking around with curious eyes. Behind him came the others. Hannah was humming a little song. Siosi's footsteps shook the metal floor. Una smiled sweetly at every alien she passed. Day was already looking at the shadows, planning escape routes. Lord Varric descended from his platform to meet them. He towered over Tay by 2 heads. His 4 eyes looked down with contempt. You're the diplomats Earth sends? Varric asked. 12 soft creatures to face the might of our empire. Tay looked up at him and smiled warmly. We are not diplomats, he said. We are here to negotiate. Negotiate? Varric laughed. You have nothing to negotiate with. I disagree, Tay replied. His voice was soft and pleasant. Here is our offer. Leave Earth alone. Go back to your empire. Forget you ever found our planet. Varric's laughter echoed through the hangar. And if we refuse? Tay's smile did not change. Then I must ask you a question, Lord Varric. How many of your people need to die before you agree to peace? Because we can start with any number you like. The silence that followed was heavy. Then Varric's face twisted with anger. He reached out and grabbed Tay's shoulder hard. Take them to the cells, Varric commanded. I will deal with them later. As the guards surrounded them, Hannah leaned close to Yuna. He touched Tay's shoulder. She whispered. That was rude. Yuna nodded sadly. Some people have no manners. The guards pushed them forward. The humans went quietly, offering no resistance. They let themselves be locked in a cold gray cell deep in the ship. For 1 hour, nothing happened. The guards stood watch. The cameras recorded. Everything was calm. Then the lights went out. When they came back on 3 minutes later, the cell was empty. The door was still locked. The guards were still standing. But the 12 humans had vanished like smoke and on the wall. Written in the guards' own blood was a simple message. Thank you for your hospitality. We will show ourselves around. The hunt had begun. But the Keth did not yet understand the truth. They thought they were the hunters. They were wrong. Lord Varric stared at the empty cell. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, one after another. The door was still locked. The walls had no holes. The floor was solid metal, but the humans were gone. Find them, he said quietly. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking with anger. Find them and bring them to me. Use 500 soldiers. Search every room on this ship. General Thesa nodded and sent out the order. 500 of the best Keth warriors spread across the flagship. They moved in teams of 10, checking every corridor, every storage room, every shadow. They were confident. The ship was their home. They knew every corner. The first team disappeared within an hour. No one heard screams. No one heard weapons fire. The team simply stopped responding to communication. When another team went to check, they found nothing. No bodies, no blood, just empty hallways and silence. By the end of the first day, 60 soldiers were missing. Varric called an emergency meeting. How is this possible? He demanded. They are 12. We are 40,000. How can 12 soft humans defeat our warriors? No one had an answer. On the second day, the bodies started appearing. A patrol team walked into a mess hall and found 20 Keth. Soldiers arranged in a circle on the floor. They were not dead. They were sleeping. But carved into the table in front of them were the words, "We could have. We chose not to." Today, in the engine room, workers found their tools rearranged to spell out hello in the human language. No one had seen anyone enter or leave in the medical bay. Doctors discovered that all their surgical tools had been slightly moved. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. But a note was left behind. Nice equipment. We've borrowed some knowledge. Thanks. It was signed with a small drawing of a smiling face. The ship's crew began to panic. They jumped at shadows. They refused to walk alone. Soldiers who had conquered planets were now afraid to turn corners. On the third day, Day showed himself. A young Keth officer was walking to his quarters when he saw a reflection in a window. A human was standing behind him, waving and smiling. The officer spun around. No one was there. He looked back at the window. The reflection was gone. That night, the officer did not sleep. Neither did anyone who heard his story. General Thesa finally understood what was happening. She went to Lord Varric, with fear in her eyes. "My lord," she said, "I have realized something terrible. The humans are not trying to escape. They are not trying to kill everyone. They are learning. Learning what? Varric asked. Thesa replied. They are learning how we think, how we react, how we feel fear. They are studying us like scientists study animals, and they are enjoying it. Varric slammed his fist on his throne. Then we will trap them. Seal all the sections. Fill every corridor with soldiers. They cannot hide forever. But the humans were not hiding. They were playing. Hannah had spent 2 days exploring the ship's engineering section. She loved it there. So many machines. So many pipes. So many places to put her babies. She worked carefully, humming her favorite songs. She placed small devices in hidden spots. Each one was a work of art. Each one could destroy a room or just make a loud noise, depending on her mood. On one device, she left a small note. You were close. Try again. On another. Better luck next time, friend. She drew little hearts on each note. When a Keth engineer found one of her devices and tried to remove it, it exploded with confetti and a recorded message. Surprise. This one was just for fun. The next one might not be. The engineer screamed and ran. Hannah watched from a vent above, giggling quietly. Una was busy too. She had found the medical bay on the first night and spent hours studying Keth biology. Their bodies were different from humans, but not that different. They had blood and bones and organs. They felt pain. They felt fear. On the third night, she entered the medical bay again. The Keth doctors were working late. Una turned off the lights. When they came back on, the doctors were sitting in their chairs, unable to move. Una had used their own drugs to paralyze them. She walked among them slowly, checking their vital signs, looking into their frightened eyes. She smiled gently. Do not worry, she said in their language. She had learned it in 2 days. I am not going to hurt you. I am a healer. I just wanted to understand how your bodies work. Now I do. She left them a gift. A small bottle of medicine with a note. This will cure the common Keth cold. Consider it a thank you for your hospitality. The doctors never spoke of that night. But none of them ever worked late again. COK did not play games. SEOK simply waited. On the 4th day, a battalion of 200 Keth soldiers found him in a cargo hold. He was sitting on a crate, cleaning a piece of metal pipe he had found. He looked up at them calmly. The battalion commander laughed. 1 human, he said. Against 200 of our finest, this is almost too easy. Eok stood up slowly. He was tall for a human, but the Keth were taller. He did not seem concerned. Surrender now, the commander ordered, and your death will be quick. Seok said nothing. He never said anything. He simply walked forward. The soldiers opened fire. SEO moved like water, like smoke, like something that should not exist. He was among them before they understood what was happening. What happened next was recorded on 17 different cameras. Later, Intelligence Officer Nero would watch the footage once. He would delete it immediately. He would never speak of it. He would have nightmares about it for the rest of his life. When it was over, Seok sat back down on his crate. His clothes were torn. He had cuts on his arms. But he was alive. Around him, 200 soldiers were not. He went back to cleaning his pipe. He was humming a little song. It was the same song Hannah always hummed. General Thesa received the report 1 hour later. Her hands trembled as she read it. My lord, she said to Varric, we have made a terrible mistake. What mistake? Varric demanded. Thessa looked at him with hollow eyes. We thought we were hunting them. We thought they were trapped on our ship with no escape. We were wrong. She took a deep breath. They are not trapped in here with us. My lord, we are trapped in here with them. Outside the throne room, deep in the ship's ventilation system, Tay listened to every word. He smiled softly and whispered into his communication device. Phase 1 complete. They are afraid. Now we begin Phase 2. Now we teach them what fear really means. In 12 different locations across the ship, 12 humans heard his words and smiled in the darkness. The real lesson was about to begin. Intelligence Officer Nero had a simple job. He studied enemies. He learned their weaknesses. He found ways to defeat them. In his 40 years of service, he had studied over 30 different species. He had helped the Keth Empire conquer 12 worlds. He had never studied anything like humans. Lord Varric had given him one order: understand the enemy. Find out why 12 humans could terrorize a ship of 40,000. Find out how to stop them. Nero started with the data chip. Day had left it in a corridor sitting in plain sight. It was clearly a trap of some kind, but it was also clearly an invitation. The humans wanted Nero to see what was on it. He loaded the chip into his computer. It contained one thing: full access to Earth's historical records. Nero began to read. He started with the last 100 years. Then he went back further and further. The more he read, the colder he felt. Humans had been killing each other for 200,000 years. The Keth Empire had existed for 3,000 years. In that time, they had fought 47 wars. They had conquered 200 worlds. They had killed millions. Humans had killed billions of each other. On their own planet, Nero read about their world wars, massive conflicts that covered their entire globe. Tens of millions dead. Cities turned to ash. Weapons that could destroy everything. He read about their nuclear bombs. Humans had created weapons that could end all life on their planet. Then, they had built thousands more. They had pointed these weapons at each other for decades. Ready to destroy themselves rather than lose, he read about their torture methods. The Keth had ways of causing pain, but humans had elevated it to an art form. They had spent centuries finding new ways to make each other suffer. He read about their concentration camps, their genocides, their biological weapons, their chemical attacks, things that made his stomach turn. The Keth had never done anything like this to each other. They had rules. They had honor. They had limits. Humans had no limits. Not when it came to fighting their own kind. And then Nero understood something terrible. The 12 humans on this ship were not soldiers. They were not even warriors. They were the ones too dangerous for human society. They were the monsters that humans locked away. Earth had sent their worst nightmares. While Nero studied, Tay allowed himself to be captured. It was not really a capture. Tay simply appeared in front of a patrol team and raised his hands. He smiled and said, "Take me to someone intelligent. I would like to have a conversation." The patrol team was terrified. They had heard the stories. But orders were orders. They brought Tay to Nero's office and locked him in a chair. Nero looked at the human with all 4 eyes. Tay looked back calmly. He did not seem concerned about being restrained. He did not seem concerned about anything. "You read our history?" Tay said. It was not a question. "Yes," Nero replied. "How did you know?" "Because that is why we left the chip. We wanted you to understand." Nero leaned forward. "Understand what? That humans are violent? That you are dangerous?" "I already knew that." Tay shook his head slowly. "No. We wanted you to understand why we are what we are." He looked around the room. His eyes were calm and patient. "Your empire conquers through superior technology, better ships, bigger weapons. You see a world, you take it. When was the last time you truly fought for survival?" Nero had to think. The answer surprised him. "We have not faced a true threat in 800 years. 800 years of easy victories," Tay said. 800 years of never being afraid. That is a long time to forget what fear feels like." He smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was almost sad. On Earth, we had no easy victories. The deadliest predator on our planet was always another human. We had to fight every day. Not against animals, not against nature, against ourselves. For 200,000 years, we survived each other. Tay leaned forward. His eyes never left Nero's face. "Do you know what that does to a species? It makes us very, very good at violence. And the ones you see on this ship, we are not normal humans. We are the ones that even other humans fear. We are what happens when you take 200,000 years of survival instinct and remove all the things that make us civilized. Nero felt cold. You are saying you are monsters, Tay replied. Monsters have no choice in what they are. We chose this. We were trained for this. We volunteered for this. That is what makes us dangerous. We are not crazy. We are not out of control. We know exactly what we are doing. We simply do not care about the same things you care about. The conversation was interrupted by General Thesa entering the room. She looked at Tay with hatred in her eyes. Why? She demanded. Why are you doing this? You could try to escape. You could try to take over the ship. Instead, you play these games. You leave messages. You kill some and spare others. What is the purpose? Tay turned his calm eyes to her. The purpose is education, General. Your empire wanted to conquer Earth. We are teaching you why that is a bad idea. By terrorizing our crew. By showing you what you would face, Tay corrected. There are 12 of us. 12 humans, and your 40,000 soldiers cannot sleep peacefully. Now imagine 7 billion of us. Imagine an entire planet of people who grew up learning to fight and kill and survive. He paused. Let the words sink in. We're not here to win a war. We are here to prevent one. When your empire understands what humanity truly is, you will leave us alone. That is the plan. That is the purpose. Thessa's hands were shaking. And if we do not learn? If Lord Verac refuses to retreat? Tay's smile faded. For the first time, he looked serious. Then we will stop teaching, and we will start demonstrating. He looked at Nero. You've read our history? You know what we are capable of? Ask yourself this question. If humans can do those things to each other, imagine what we will do to aliens who threaten our home. Nero asked the guards to take Tay back to the cell, but Tay was already gone. The chair was empty. The restraints were open. No one had seen him move. On the chair sat a small note. Good conversation. Let us talk again soon. That night, Nero finished his report. His hands trembled as he wrote the final words. Recommendation. Immediate withdrawal from Earth system. These humans are not an enemy we can defeat. They are not an enemy we can understand. They are the concentrated violence of an entire species refined over 200,000 years. If we continue this war, we will not conquer Earth. We will awaken something that the galaxy has never seen before. He sent the report to Lord Verac. Verac read it once. Then he deleted it. His pride would not let him run from 12 humans. His pride would be his downfall. And somewhere in the darkness of the ship, Tay smiled. He had hoped Verac would be foolish. Foolish enemies were always easier to break. Prepare for Phase 3, he whispered into his communicator. The Lord wants a demonstration. Let us give him one he will never forget. Lord Verac had made his decision. No more hunting. No more searching. He would gather every soldier on his ship and crush the humans with overwhelming force. Seal all sections, he commanded. Lock down every door. Fill every corridor with soldiers. They cannot fight 30,000 of our warriors at once. Push them into the central plaza. We will surround them and end this. General Thesa wanted to argue, but she knew it was pointless. Verac's pride was stronger than his wisdom. The announcement echoed through the entire ship. Every soldier heard the order. Every civilian was told to hide in their quarters. The Keth military machine began to move. In a small maintenance room, Tay listened to the announcement. He turned to his team with a quiet smile. They are finally playing our game, he said. Hannah, are your preparations complete? Hannah nodded eagerly. Her eyes were bright with excitement. Every corridor from here to the central plaza, every ventilation shaft, every side room. I have spent 4 days making this ship beautiful. Yuna. Yuna checked her medical bag. Water supply is treated. The effects will begin in 2 hours. Non-lethal, but very unpleasant. SIOIC. The big man simply nodded. Day was grinning. I know every shadow in this ship. They will never see me coming. Tay looked at each of them. These people were broken in ways that normal humans could not understand. They were damaged and dangerous and deadly. But they were his family. "Remember the mission?" he said. "We are not here to kill everyone. We are here to break them. Make them understand that fighting Earth is not worth the cost. When they surrender, we stop." Hannah pouted. "You always ruin my fun." "We can have some fun," Tay allowed. "Just do not destroy the entire ship. We need survivors to spread the message." The humans moved out. The demonstration was about to begin. The 1st Keth Battalion entered Corridor 7 at exactly midnight. 100 soldiers in perfect formation, armed with the best weapons in the galaxy. They were confident. They were ready. Hannah had left a present for them. The first explosion was small. Just a flash of light and smoke. The soldiers stopped, confused. Then the second explosion came. And the third. And the 10th, the corridor became chaos. Soldiers ran in every direction. Some explosions were deadly. Some just released smoke. Some made loud noises and nothing else. The soldiers could not tell which was which. Through the smoke, Hannah danced. She moved like a ghost, placing more devices, pressing buttons on a small controller. She was laughing. "This one goes boom," she sang. "This one does not." Can you guess which is which? By the time the battalion escaped Corridor 7, they had lost 30 soldiers. The survivors were shaking. They had not even seen their attacker. In the water treatment center, Eunice poison was spreading. It was not deadly. It was something much worse. Every Keth soldier who drank the water began to feel strange. Their muscles became weak. Their vision blurred. Their reaction times slowed. Una had studied Keth biology carefully. She knew exactly how to make them uncomfortable without killing them. "A sick army cannot fight," she had explained to Tay. "Why kill them when I can make them wish they were dead?" Within 2 hours, half the soldiers on the ship were barely able to stand. Day was everywhere and nowhere. He appeared in reflections, in the corner of eyes, in shadows that should have been empty. Soldiers turned to shoot and found nothing. They heard footsteps behind them, but saw no one there. Day had spent his whole life learning to disappear. On Earth, he had been invisible even among humans. Among aliens who did not understand human movement, he was a ghost. He did not kill many soldiers. He did not need to. He simply made them believe that death could come at any moment from any direction. By the end of the second hour, entire battalions refused to advance. They stood frozen, watching every shadow, jumping at every sound. Fear is a weapon. Day was a master of fear. The soldiers who made it to the central plaza thought they were safe. 30,000 warriors gathered in one place, surrounding every exit. Surely the humans could not fight so many. They were wrong. Tay walked into the plaza alone. He moved slowly, calmly, hands clasped behind his back. 30,000 weapons pointed at him. Lord Varric stood on a raised platform, looking down with triumph in his eyes. At last he said, "You have nowhere to run, human. Surrender now." Tay stopped in the center of the plaza. He looked around at the army surrounding him. Then he smiled. "You still do not understand," he said. His voice was soft, but somehow everyone heard it. "You brought your army here. Exactly where we wanted them." He raised one hand. The lights went out. In the darkness, screams began. Seok moved through the crowd like a storm. He did not use weapons. He did not need them. His hands were weapons. His body was a weapon. Every movement was perfect, trained over years of silent practice. Soldiers fired their weapons blindly. They hit each other more than they hit Seok. The big man moved constantly, never stopping, never slowing. Hannah's explosives erupted across the plaza. Not killing explosions. Flash bombs. Smoke bombs. Sound bombs that made soldiers deaf and blind. Chaos spread like fire. Una moved through the fallen, checking pulses, making sure no one would die, but no one would fight again. Her gentle hands carried poison and medicine in equal measure. Day appeared and disappeared, striking and vanishing, until soldiers began shooting each other out of fear. And through it all, Tay walked calmly toward Lord Varric's platform. Soldiers tried to stop him. They failed. Not because Tay killed them, but because Yuna had taught him exactly where to press to make a Keth. Body stopped working. Varric watched in horror as his army collapsed around him. This was not a battle. This was a performance. The humans were showing him exactly how helpless he was. Tay reached the platform. Varric drew his ceremonial blade. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns. He had won countless battles. The fight lasted 12 seconds. Varric found himself on his knees, unable to move. Tay had not used a weapon. He had used only his hands, pressing points that Yuna had mapped on Keth's anatomy charts. "Listen carefully," Tay said, "because I will only say this once." He knelt down to look Varric in his 4 eyes. Earth has 7 billion humans. We sent 12. 12 of our most broken, most dangerous, most unstable people. And we have destroyed your pride in 4 days. He let that sink in. Now imagine what happens if you attack our planet. Imagine 7 billion people fighting for their homes, their families, their survival. We will not surrender. We do not know how. We will fight until the last human is dead, and we will make you bleed for every inch of ground. Tay stood up. Go home. Tell your emperor what you saw. Tell him that Earth says hello. Tell him that we are not worth the cost. He turned and walked away. The other humans emerged from the chaos and followed him. 30,000 soldiers lay on the ground, groaning, crying, broken in spirit if not in body. 8,000 would survive. The rest would never walk again. General Thesa found Varric still kneeling on the platform. His eyes were empty. His pride was gone. "My lord," she said quietly, "what are your orders?" Varric said nothing for a long time. Then, slowly, he spoke. "Set course for home. Full speed." "We are leaving." Thesa did not argue. She ran to make it happen. As the ship turned away from Earth, Nero sat in his office, staring at his screen. He had watched the entire battle on the cameras. He had seen what 12 humans could do. He began to write a new report. Not for Varric, not for the military, for history. "Today I witnessed the end of our expansion," he wrote. "Today I learned that some species are not meant to be conquered. Humanity is one of them. May the gods have mercy on anyone who forgets this lesson." On the small human ship flying beside the flagship, Tay watched Earth growing larger in the window. His team sat around him, tired but alive. "Mission complete," Hannah said. "Can we go home now? I miss my workshop." Tay nodded. "We can go home." They had done the impossible. 12 people had stopped an empire. Not with strength. Not with technology. With something far more powerful. With fear. And the galaxy would remember. 50 years had passed since the day the Keth flagship fled Earth space. In that time, everything had changed. The Keth Empire was gone. Not destroyed by war or conquest, but collapsed from within. The soldiers who returned from that ship were never the same. They told stories in whispers. They woke screaming from nightmares. They refused to serve in any military action. The Empire's military spirit died on that single ship. And without its military, the Empire crumbled. The story spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species heard about what happened. 12 humans. 40,000 soldiers. For days, the numbers grew with each telling. Some versions said the humans had killed 10,000. Others said they had destroyed the entire ship. The truth did not matter. What mattered was the fear. One by one, galactic powers quietly removed Earth from their target lists. Invasion plans were deleted. Intelligence files were closed. No one wanted to test whether the stories were true. Earth emerged from the shadows. Not as conquerors. Not as warriors. As something far more powerful. A species that no one wanted to fight. Trade agreements were signed. Diplomatic relationships were formed. Humans spread across the galaxy, building, exploring, connecting, and everyone was very, very polite to them. On Earth, There were no parades for Unit Omega 7. No statues. No medals. Their existence remained classified. Most humans never knew they existed at all. It was better that way. Tay retired to a small farm in the mountains. He grew vegetables. He raised chickens. He taught philosophy to children at the local school. His students thought he was just a gentle old man who told interesting stories. They never guessed that he had once broken an empire with his bare hands. Some nights, he sat on his porch and looked at the stars. He thought about Lord Varak, probably dead by now. He thought about the soldiers he had broken. He felt no guilt. He had done what was necessary. He had protected his home, but he was glad those days were over. Hannah started a fireworks company. She created displays that lit up entire cities. Her explosions were beautiful now, not deadly. She still talked to her creations like pets, but these pets brought joy instead of fear. Legal explosions. She would tell visitors to her workshop, her voice slightly sad. They are not the same, but they are pretty. She kept one small device hidden in her desk drawer, just in case. Old habits never die. Suk became a monk in a temple high in the mountains. He still did not speak. The other monks thought he was simply devoted to his vow of silence. They did not know that he had not spoken in over 50 years. Every morning he sat in meditation. Every evening he tended the garden. His hands, which had once killed hundreds, now grew flowers. It was not redemption. It was simply a different kind of purpose. Sometimes young monks asked him about his past. Seok would simply smile and shake his head. Some stories were not meant to be told. Yuna became Earth's Surgeon General. She had spent her life learning to hurt people. Now she spent her life learning to heal them. Her hospitals saved millions. Her research cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Her smile still unnerved her colleagues. They could not explain why. There was something in her gentle eyes that made them uncomfortable. Something that remembered darker times. She kept her old medical bag in a locked cabinet in her office. She never opened it. But she never threw it away either. Day simply disappeared. On the day the team returned to Earth, Day walked into the shadows and never came back. No one knew where he went. No one knew if he was alive or dead. Some said they had seen him in crowds, watching from the edge of vision. Some said he had become a legend, a ghost that appeared whenever Earth needed protection. The truth was simpler and sadder. Day had lived his whole life invisible. When the mission was over, he did not know how to be seen. So he stayed in the shadows. It was the only home he had ever known. Nero lived longer than anyone expected. He spent his final decades writing a book about humans. It became required reading in every military academy in the galaxy. They are not evil, Nero wrote in the final chapter. They are not cruel by nature. They are efficient. They evolved on a world where everything tried to kill them, including each other. And the most terrifying truth is this. The ones they sent to our ship were volunteers. They wanted to come. They were excited to come. Imagine what the ones who did not volunteer are capable of. He died peacefully in his sleep. His last words were, "Thank the gods they were merciful." General Thesa became a teacher. She taught history to young Keth, warning them about the dangers of pride and the wisdom of knowing which fights to avoid. Her most famous lesson was simple. Some enemies cannot be defeated. They can only be avoided. Learn to recognize them before it is too late. She kept a small human artifact on her desk, a folded piece of paper with a smiley face drawn on it. Hannah had left it in Thessa's quarters before the humans departed. Thesa never understood why, but she never threw it away. Years passed. Generations grew and died. The original members of Unit Omega 7 passed away one by one, their secrets dying with them, but the legend remained. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a young species was rising. They had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They had just found Earth's location. Their emperor stood before his council, presenting plans for conquest. "This species calls themselves humans," he said, pointing at a blue planet on the screen. "They are weak, soft. They have no great military. They will fall easily." An old Keth trader sat in the corner of the room. He had come to sell goods but stayed to listen. When the emperor finished speaking, the trader raised his hand. "May I speak?" he asked. The emperor nodded with amusement. "What does a merchant know of war?" The trader stood slowly. He was old and tired, but his eyes were sharp. "I was a young soldier on the flagship that first found Earth," he said. "I was one of the 8,000 who survived. I have spent 50 years trying to forget what I saw." He walked to the screen and looked at the blue planet. "You see a weak species? I see a species that sent 12 people to face 40,000 warriors. 12 people who did not beg or bargain or run. 12 people who walked into our ship like they were walking into their home." His voice grew quiet. "I watched those 12 people destroy our empire's spirit in 4 days. I watched them turn our greatest warriors into crying children. I watched them move through our ship like ghosts, killing and sparing as they chose, showing us that we were never in control." He turned to face the emperor. "Go ahead. Attack Earth. Bring your fleets. Bring your armies. Bring everything you have." His eyes were haunted with old memories when they sent their response. "Remember my warning. You will not be fighting soldiers. You will be fighting the most dangerous creatures in this galaxy. Creatures who have been killing each other for 200,000 years. Creatures who have turned violence into art." He pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. "This is a recording from that day. My parting gift to you. Watch it before you make your decision." The emperor watched. His council watched. The recording showed SEOK in the cargo hold. It showed what one silent human could do. When it ended, the room was silent. The emperor deleted the invasion plans that night. The fleet was disbanded. Earth was added to the list of worlds that were never to be approached, and on his small farm on Earth, an old man named Tay looked up at the stars. He did not know about the fleet that had almost come. He did not know about the plans that had been abandoned, but somewhere deep inside, he smiled. The lesson was still being taught. The message was still being heard. Earth was safe. The galaxy had learned what humans really were. Not the weak and soft creatures they appeared to be. Not the peaceful explorers they pretended to be. They were survivors. They were predators. They were 200,000 years of evolution pressed into a single dangerous package, and sometimes, when pushed hard enough, they stopped pretending. The stars were beautiful tonight. Tay watched them for a long time, remembering old battles and old friends. Then he went inside to sleep. Tomorrow, he would teach children about philosophy. He would grow his vegetables. He would live a peaceful life. But somewhere in the galaxy, his legend would continue to protect his home. A legend built on 4 days of darkness. A legend that whispered one simple truth. Do not wake the humans. They are not what they seem.